Have you ever felt like you have lost the rhythm of life and the reason to live and love? Have you ever struggled from the lack of motivation or felt like you are trapped in a never ending cycle of darkness, negativity, upset, and you feel like you're no longer yourself anymore? If you have experienced these scenarios or know people who are victims of these thoughts and scenarios, we hope that you benefit from today's talk. Hello and good evening, and welcome to the Busy Couch Potatoes' very first episode of Normalising and Destigmatizing Depression among Teens. My name is Pavana Pooja Rajasegran, just a normal second year law student, and today I have extremely special people with me who will be accompanying me as well, and also as you guys as well, and sharing adequate and legitimate advice that may be of great help in your daily lives. Chu and Yuklim, please introduce yourselves.
Hey, hi everyone. This is Chu here, just an ordinary law student as well. Nice to meet you.
So hi everyone, this is Yuklim here, and also once again, ordinary law student here. Nice to meet you all today.
Yes, it's also my pleasure to have you two with us as well. Now, speaking of depression, since you want to go straight to the point, Chu, what is your takeaway of this condition called depression?
Okay, so depression, in my understanding and also my experience, it is one of the most common types of mental health conditions, which can be accompanied by anxiety. And it can be a mild feeling which is short-lived or temporary, or it could be something very severe, serious and long-lasting, where it differs from people and also circumstances. So you may feel persistent sadness, anxiousness, or maybe annoyed even with the slightest things, which may result in you not wanting to socialize or even take up new challenges.
Yes, I completely agree with you, Chu here. Because in particular, the stigma or the misconception that depression is something bad, or maybe even people with depression shall always be avoided, that makes the situation more worse, because those are the people who are actually struggling in it. So this is because stigmatism against depression has often hampered many from talking freely and also addressing matters relating to mental health. Feeling oppressed or underappreciated has become a norm in which many struggle to fit in or feel comfortable on a daily basis. Throughout the past few years, mental health among various classes of people have declined and deteriorated drastically. Millions of people around the world have become victims to their own thoughts while being in the darkness. The only difference is some end it by marking an end to their own life, some accept and carry on with it for many years, while there is also plenty of them refuse to acknowledge their current mental state and suffering in the silence of fearing prejudice from the others.
Yes, definitely, Yuklim. There are many victims of depression out there, and also maybe from our viewers as well. So, also, lately, those stepping into adolescence and in their teenage years, which may be of our viewers as well, in the midst of the pandemic, have shown serious signs of depression and lack of social skills, because they're always stuck to their screens. They don't meet their friends generally because of the lockdown and because they're online, and this has affected their ways of life and has oppressed them from moving it forward and taking up new challenges. And just to give you guys and also the viewers some brief statistics of depression, according to WHO, which is the World Health Organization, a total percentage of 13% globally, aged 10 to 19 years old, experience any type of mental disorder in which depression, behavioral disorders, and also anxiety are dominant causes of mental illnesses among teenagers and adolescents. And unfortunately, in the 15 to 19-year-old category, those severely affected by the said mental illness, which is depression, behavioral disorders, and whatnot, often fall into suicidal thoughts resulting in suicide, which is very concerning as well.
Oh, okay. That is actually a very alarming number. This shows that, shows to our audience, you are clearly not alone in this battle of depression as a teenager. And I think that it's extremely important to break this stigma that depression is something bad, especially since it's so common. And I believe that talking about it openly or conducting activities are some of the ways to normalize it.
Yes, definitely true. And come to think about it, whenever someone asks you how you're feeling or how was your day, there's always this burden to reply and also to give them an answer that I'm okay, or yeah, good, I'm good and fine. But in reality, you're actually not feeling that way, and it's very concerning and it's very depressing as well, because sometimes it takes a toll on you to keep on answering that you're okay when you're not. And here, how do we know whether someone is okay or not? And in answering this, now Chu and Euclid, as you know, today's episode of our podcast is specifically targeted to teens and students. But if I may ask, could you share some advice to parents or those older siblings who might be watching this podcast together now with their children or their siblings to help destigmatizing depression, and also in regards to steps to make these teens feel better in talking about it?
Yes, of course, Pavana. Parents had always played an important, or I should say vital role for teenagers to combat their depression. So now parents, if you have noticed that your child is feeling not as good as before, or if you are generally a parent who are concerned with your child's daily conditions or even their state of mental health, I would suggest maybe you can first find out what's happening towards your child in the first place. Simple ways such as asking them if they are feeling okay, or listening to them without any judgment or immediately advising them would definitely helps a lot for them to combat the depression. And also, you can also speak from a perspective whereby you have dealt with depression before, and providing reasonable advice for them will also aid in this case. So furthermore, if you feel like your child is not in any way sharing enough, or maybe they are hesitant to share their current obstacles faced, perhaps you can try asking the people around them of their current behaviors, or of whether there is anything you can provide with them, or is there anything you can pay more attention with to help them to combat depression. So in terms of the parties you can try to get approached with, as such their teachers, friends, or classmates, or maybe perhaps there is also some of the people which you can try to approach with, whereby these are the people which usually your child has spent time with.
I agree with Yokelim, and I think other than asking around or talking to them, which is also very important, we also need to look into things like physical, emotional, and mental symptoms within the teenagers. This also applies to teenagers because many of you might have been experiencing these symptoms, but you guys don't know that it's actually a sign of depression. Generally, physical symptoms include like restlessness or difficulties in concentrating, changes in your appetite, you might have lost interest in eating, low levels of energy or tiredness, or I would say fatigue, not being interested in a lot of things, or pain without any reasons. So other than that, emotional or mental symptoms would be, of course, sadness, self-harming or suicidal thoughts, very important, feeling unworthy, hopeless, loneliness, not being confident enough to socialize, the lingering or darkness, and just not feeling like yourself anymore. So if you are feeling any part of this, reach someone who might help you, like your parents or maybe your older siblings, and talk to them. Just remember that depression is very normal and we can help you.
Yes, definitely true. And I think I completely agree with you that depression is normal and that everyone is willing to help teens, especially who are having depression. And also another thing is, I think that it's also really important to look at things from a teen's perspective and our viewers' perspective as well. And if parents start normalizing the act of understanding their child's condition, as and you as a teen start understanding your condition as well, it may become a norm and be implemented to normalize and destigmatize depression as a whole. So the question of how is something that you might ask, and it's actually quite simple. So when one parent here asks their teacher or another child about their child's depression, the concern immediately rises. And when these people start talking about their conditions, or they share their concerns with other people, this starts spreading, and before you know it, due to the domino effect, depression will be talked about and addressed as a norm. So to the parents here listening, and also to our viewers generally, make sure to encourage your children and always stay positive with positive habits, and spend time with them, allow them to be themselves, and especially protect them from stressful surroundings that may happen currently as well.
So if I may further add here at this point,
Yes.
teenagers, so what you're feeling right now, it's completely okay, even if that's depression in itself. So you know that there is always a statement which flies around, or people uses it, whereby it is always okay not to be okay. This is definitely true because everyone has their own breaking points or even meltdowns, including me, or I'm sure that Pavana and Chu, you can also relate to this because we are just normal human and we are just ordinary law student in our current case. So it is absolutely normal to feel this way, and it is never wrong to have depression in your life. So one important thing you should take note is you matters, and what you feel matters to many people around you, as such your parents, your friends. So never got disheartened just because you feel like there is other people who are not like you who are suffering depression. This is not the case here, and you are always the one who should be loved, and there is also many people around you who are always willing to help you and protect you. So in any event, if you have depression phase, just reach out to anyone who you feel comfortable with. Tell them that you need help and you need to talk to them. Let them know that you are not feeling yourself and you are suffering from depression itself. I bet you that there will be so many people which will be happy to assist you at this matter.
Yes, I completely agree with you that you claim that so many people out there are suffering from depression and it has become such a common disease. And everyone around you is actually willing to help you and willing to listen to you. And also in terms of experience, if I were to share my experience as well, I myself have felt out of place or unhappy in so many situations. And sometimes, everything would be going completely fine. I would be having a good day. Everything would be set out perfectly. But then suddenly I would start doubting myself so much, which would start making me feel unhappy about my life, about my day, or my achievements. And furthermore, if I were to share a specific incident or experience that I've had, when I was back in secondary school and had to shift schools all of a sudden, going to a new one away from my friends and away from people I knew made me feel so out of place. And honestly speaking, at that time, I felt so alone and lost, as though nothing could make me feel better. But then, in combating this and in overcoming this, I always approached my elder sisters, where I'd call them up and I'd tell them that I'm not feeling okay, and they would immediately put everything aside and they'd come to listen to me, and I would pour whatever that that I had been bottling up to them. So I definitely recommend talking about your conditions to those who you can trust, because this has definitely helped me from my experience. And as a big sister, I would definitely suggest this suggestion and ask you guys to talk about it more openly as well.
I think in my case, it would be that sometimes I would find it very difficult to get out of bed or maybe like start my day. And I think that, but I would usually have daily manifestations I would recite to make myself better. And I would even prepare a list of what I want to do. And on days where it became serious, I would call a close friend and talk about how I feel. And this is where I agree with Pavana. Talking and sharing how you feel actually lessens at least 40% of your worries, and you would feel lighter. I would even take deep breaths and count down from 10 to 1 slowly to get a good pace. Other than that, I also know there's many of my friends out there who openly visit therapies to have sessions to help them with their depression.
Speaking about therapies, right, we always understand that there is always a misconception whereby when you are visiting a therapist, you might have some sort of issue with your brain itself. However, it is not our current case here, because despite that, therapies would be generally difficult for an individual to approach. The statistics has proved that visiting therapists had helped many people out there, whereby it is not only those who have mental illnesses visit therapists. There is also people who visit therapists just to do general checkups, just like any usual one. So at this juncture, we can see that visiting therapists is not necessarily that you have an issue with your state of health of your mental. It's just that you want professional advice and professional consultations, and hence you go and visit therapists.
Yes, thank you so much, Yukim, and also to Chu for sharing so much with us today. And yes, visiting a therapist is not something that is peculiar or not something out of the box. It is something that should be taken as a step in combating depression and also, approaching people generally. So now on that note, let's take a look at a short video, and I hope you enjoy the video as well.
You know that feeling where your thoughts scare you or make life tough? Sometimes it feels like no one else in the world has those thoughts or feelings. No one seems to know how difficult it is to deal with your feelings. And it's not easy to share your deepest secrets. You might think something is wrong with you. Or you might worry what other people think. And all of that makes your thoughts and feelings worse. Our culture has created this environment of shame. Until the 1960s, society sent people away if they had challenges managing their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Over time, we learned that we didn't have to be afraid. We learned how to help people get better. We became hopeful. But there are remnants of those images in our culture today, which is why some people still feel uncomfortable talking about it. The stigma has taken new forms too. With more access to more people all the time, it can seem like the world is telling us it's not okay to be anything but perfect. The truth is, everyone has thoughts or feelings that can be hard to deal with. So why do we make it so difficult on ourselves by judging others who could be going through the same challenges we are? What if, instead of seeing labels, we saw people who are struggling and could be there for them so they didn't feel so alone? What if we looked past our fear of mental health and started to talk about it in a constructive way? What if, as a society, we used empowering words and healthy images to help people feel supported? Maybe then, more of us could feel comfortable telling others when we're having a hard time. Maybe more people would get the help they need. And maybe one day we won't have to talk separately about mental health and physical health, but just health.
So welcome back everyone. I hope you enjoyed the short video just now. And based on this video, if I were to quote Pablo Picasso, the meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of life is to give that gift away. And we hope that our gift here today is to empower you, your friends, your family members, and your loved ones to talk about mental health stigma, particularly depression-related stigma, openly, and to be more comfortable in sharing your thoughts. And as mentioned earlier, bottling up your feelings or upsetting thoughts only causes you to store that feeling even longer within yourselves. And we don't want that. We want to celebrate those who openly talk about their feelings and depression. And we are also here to help those out here and the viewers struggling and feeling uncomfortable within your own skin. We want you to feel more comfortable. We want you to be more confident in talking about your thoughts so that you talk more openly about depression. And now, since we have reached the end of today's episode, we genuinely hope that this session has been a helping hand in many of your young teens' lives and may break the negative spotlight placed on depression as a whole. And before we end that, if there are any concerns or queries that have been raised within the viewers as well, please feel free to leave them in the comment section and we'll be subsequently addressing them later on or replying your comments as soon as possible. So on that note, always remember that you're not alone in this struggle and your happiness and health is definitely everyone's priority. You don't have to be someone's version of perfect and you are already perfect the way you are. So on that note, we hope to see you in our next 2 mini episodes as well. Till then, thank you for lending your ears and we wish you a better and happier and more comfortable life. And thank you as well to our speakers today. Thank you so much for attending.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.